Hey everybody, welcome to Popcorn Therapy, where the stories we love tell us something about who we are. It is Valentine's month, and if you haven't listened yet, the last episode that I did was Heated Rivalry with my good friend Marcel Cosman, and that episode was the first of season 3 of Popcorn Therapy, so I'm very excited to share with you this sort of anti-Valentine's Day, maybe, conversation with Mel Zee on Buffalo 66. Brief recap of the story, and we are going to be talking about the ending, heavy spoilers, so if you haven't seen this movie, why not go check it out for a little bit of an anti-Valentine's Day flick, and see what you think of it, and then listen to this conversation with Mel Zee. So, brief recap, we've got Billy, who was, I believe, born in 1966. I think that's why it's called Buffalo 66, played by Vincent Gallo. He is just getting out of prison at the beginning of the movie. He made a bad bet on the outcome of a football game. He lost all his money, and then somehow he ended up getting blamed for someone else's crime because the football player fumbled on purpose. It was something like that. So he was put in jail. I believe he was innocent of the crime, but he was framed for somebody else, and he didn't really have the option of doing it any other way. So he felt this real injustice about why he was in prison. It's implied that his time there was relatively traumatic. So the movie starts when he's just getting out of prison, and his main goal is to go home to his parents and kind of prove to them that he's doing well, and he has this lie to them that he's got a wife and he's this really fancy, I think, car dealer or something like that. He makes a ton of money. It's all a lie. So what he needs is someone to stand in as his wife. He comes across Christina Ricci, like total stranger. Her character's name is Layla, and he kidnaps her and brings her into this ruse that you see so often in romantic comedies of, like, just pretend to be my wife or my girlfriend in front of my parents, and then that's it for what I need from you, right? So they do that, and then the movie continues on in this strange way where they sort of have this relationship. He's dealing with his trauma, she's falling in love with him, and we'll talk about the ending when we get there. So that's basically Buffalo 66. Mel Zee is also a good friend of mine. She's a content creator. You may know her as Sorry I Brought It Up. She does these fascinating videos about dark lore, pop culture, death, things like that. And she has a Patreon where she shares a ton of this stuff that is called patreon.com/cult of weirdos. So if you want to check that out and see the other offerings she has, she's awesome. So with all of that being said, please enjoy this episode for Anti-Valentine's Day on Buffalo 66, and we'll see you for the next one. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Popcorn Therapy. I've got Mel Zee here for the third time, actually.
Third time.
Been on the podcast, yeah. I think 3 times, yeah.
That's right.
And we're doing
I'm basically your co-host.
Yeah. Right. We're doing a little bit of kind of an anti-Valentine's Day episode today. On Buffalo 66. So before we get into it, Mel, how do you want to introduce yourself? What do you want folks to know about who you are?
I am a content creator. I hate that term. It's so cheesy, but yeah, that's what I do. I'm a content creator. I make content about death and true crime and weird, like, dark pop culture stuff at Sorry I Brought It Up on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, a little bit of YouTube.
So let's get into it. Buffalo 66 was 1990, I forget now. 1998.
Yeah.
Vincent Gallo and Christina Ricci. I had never heard of it before you told me. We were talking about, like, what are your favorite romantic movies, or I think I might have been trying to get you to watch Heated Rivalry or something. And
yes,
like,
that's what it was.
You said, well, my favorite romances are a little darker in tone, and so we decided that we'd watch this one. So my first question for you is, tell me about you and this movie, like your relationship with this movie. How did you come across it? Is it something that you rewatch a lot? Like, how did it impact you? Anything?
I watched it when I was a teenager. I think I probably watched it in '98. I don't know where I would have even watched it. Like, it was before any streaming. Like, it would have just been on my parents' TV in their basement. And I've never rewatched it since until just the other day. I watched it just to kind of prepare for this and be like, am I insane for suggesting this as a romance movie? And as I was watching it was like, yes, I think I'm more mental than I ever thought I was because it I I see it as a romance. I know that it is a dark romance and it's a fucked up romance, but what romance is not a little bit fucked up? So I've
Yeah.
just always loved it. I was a weird goth dark teen and I guess still a weird goth dark adult and I just love it.
Yeah. So say a little more about that. So watched it the first time in 1998, watched it the second time in 2026. Like that's a big stretch of time. A lot
Yep.
has changed. Can you say a bit more about how it felt different to you, or if at the end it still had that same kind of impact on you that it had when you were that goth dark teen? Yeah, what was different for you watching it again?
I mean, I see it now as being very sick. I didn't at the time. I thought, oh, he just needs a little bit of help or he's damaged and and that's says a lot about the type of partners that I've chosen. But I saw it the other night as definitely being quite sick, quite like now that I know more about Vincent Gallo too, it really colored how I saw it, which was interesting. I wouldn't be looking for a guy like that now.
Mm.
I would definitely be like, that's a very handsome man, but
Hmm.
I wouldn't date him. Yeah.
You wouldn't date someone who kidnaps you and
I
verbally
wouldn't.
abuses you?
I don't think so, but maybe.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like so I watched it for the first time, weeks ago or months ago or whenever that was that we were talking
Yeah.
about it. And yeah, I mean, it was an interesting watch to think of as a romance, right? There are a lot of pieces that are quite disturbing about it. And
Yeah.
I still liked it, I mean, I think there's a lot that's problematic about it.
Hmm.
And I think that, from that 1990s lens of romance, I feel like there's been so much cultural, like, education, awareness, insight about the kinds of partners that we're attracted to, why we're attracted to them, where that comes from. Like, I
Yeah.
really think this movie is about trauma. I think it's about Vincent Gallo's trauma, actually. I think this is a thinly veiled memoir or like story about his own life.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like it's a bit of a fantasy about trauma, like a fantasy about being loved unconditionally. It
And
doesn't hold
escaping
up.
trauma.
And escaping trauma for sure. Not having, well, yeah, I mean, there's the tiniest bit of accountability, I guess, in it, but in a lot of it, he's really resisting having to take responsibility for the choices that he's made and so on. But I do think it's quite interesting because I feel like there are so many people, me included, that have a bit of that romantic sense of, that cliche of I can fix him,
Hmm.
that cliche of I can save him, like, this troubled man who's very, unavailable or standoffish, being a woman in that heterosexual dynamic, like craving, the ability to be good enough that you can solve someone's problems for them, or be good enough or lovable enough that they change for you, right? I think that people might have more awareness about that now, but I don't think that stopped happening. Like I think people still fall in love that way and still have an attraction to I don't know that it's necessarily always men. I feel like you see it in a heterosexual dynamic a lot of the time, but
Hmm.
that broken man who just needs the right kind of love to heal, and then he'll be the partner you've always wanted, right? It kind
Yeah.
of expresses that.
Absolutely. And I feel like obviously it didn't go into like there's nothing she's just a flat character. There's like it doesn't go into her history at all or anything. It's all just about him. But like I kind of see myself as Vincent Gallo in some ways, where it's like there's always this secret fantasy where you're like somebody is gonna come along and their sweetness and like, she's like an angel all in white, like they're gonna save me from myself and like going down this dark path that I'm always going down. I'm just gonna be able to switch because somebody loves me. Like, and
Yeah.
that is a sick fantasy.
I mean, I think it's like I said, a fantasy about trauma recovery, right? I think, the the movie opens with Vincent Gallo's character who is coming out of jail. He's like completed his sentence or whatever, and we watch him. I think those opening moments are quite impactful.
Yeah.
Like he leaves the prison and there's this weird kind of, artsy montage of little images of him in the prison. And so obviously he's like remembering how hard it was or whatever. And
Yeah.
he's kind of cold. It's very November, like just a bit of snow on the ground. The trees have no leaves, like that sort of dark, cold season.
Hmm.
And he can't find a bathroom. And I just did the Heated Rivalry podcast with my friend Marcel recently. And one of the things we talked about actually was how in romance people never go to the bathroom. Like it's this thing where
Oh,
in romance, like you often have these people who seem like they're above like the physical needs of one's body, right?
hmm.
And in a love relationship, that's just one of those things. It's like having a human body, like being a human with skin. That's one of the vulnerabilities of falling in love, right? And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of bathrooms in this movie. There are a lot of people going to the bathroom, like even if it's to escape something or to like whatever it is. But it's so interesting to kind of watch that moment where he just like he needs to go to the bathroom and he's trying so hard to do it in a dignified way, like after the humiliation of the prison, and then he can't go back in there, and then the bathroom closed at the bus station, and then the restaurant, the bathroom's closed, and he's trying to go behind someone's car and they show up, and it's like he can't find a private place to go to the
Yeah.
bathroom. And he
I
finally
love that he
gives up.
tried to get back in the prison.
Yeah, I know. And he's like, what are you
I,
doing? You can't come back in here. I just let you
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just how vulnerable he is in the beginning scenes, right? It's like you're gonna hate this character, but he's curled up like a baby
Yeah.
on that bench and like just clearly such a vulnerable person.
Yeah. And when he
Yeah.
finally does go to the bathroom, it's when he's with Christina Ricci's character, Layla.
Yes.
And he just has to pull the car over and he just pees on a tree. And then it's quite funny because he's been horrible. Like he's been this
Yes.
abusive kidnapper, forced her into the car, all this stuff. As soon as he pees, he's like, listen, I'm so sorry for the way that I
Yeah.
treated you when I desperately had to pee, which I feel like is relatable, I guess. Like there, not that that's okay. Like I don't want to condone kidnapping somebody. Like that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's like so easy to hate his character, but there is something about that, and I guess it is the vulnerability where you can't help but kind of root for him a little bit or hope for
Hmm.
him a little bit, or maybe see those dark aspects of yourself in him
Yeah.
as he's struggling to just be a person. He's not very good at it.
Yeah, and like he's revealing little things throughout. Like he's lying about who he is and where he is and his circumstances and stuff, but he does let little things out that make you like, oh, this poor guy.
Yeah.
Like pretending that just her overhearing him on the phone, clearly, saying that he's got a wife and that they're on their way, but she's sick, so she can't come, and like
His first
she
class
knows.
gave her too much food.
Yes, yes, he's this very successful luxury car guy, and just for her, like she knows before she even is kidnapped by him that he's this sad, pathetic kind of, you know, vulnerable man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like the flatness of Layla is interesting. And I don't know, I thought Christina Ricci was so brilliant in it.
Hmm.
There's a moment when, she has been overhearing this stuff. She already knows that he's lying about certain things. And I think it's when they first get in the car and he's kind of, he's being abusive for sure. And then he's sort of trying to express to her what he wants her to do, which is this very romantic comedy trope, which is like pretend to be my partner when I go home to see my family, right? It's
Yep.
these weird, it's like the movie is actually quite funny. Like it has these really
Yeah.
comedic moments at certain points. And she wrinkles her nose in this way where it looks like she's trying not to laugh, right? And I feel like you can just see so much in her expression of, you can almost see right away that she kind of feels a bit bad for him, and you kind of get the sense that she could get away if she wanted to. Like,
Yeah.
there's that hilarious part where he's like, okay, like, I'm gonna drive, you can't drive. And he's like, what is this, stick shift? I can't use the stick shift. Like, are you crazy? You have to drive. And she's like, okay. And so
Yeah.
she's kind of doing what he says, as one would. And again, we're sort of setting aside a little bit this sort of kidnapping narrative wouldn't happen in the same way in 2026, but
Yes.
but you get the sense that she's aware of what's going on, and she's kind of feeling bad for him. And so much of the movie, I was like, who is Layla? Like, why is she going along with this? I would almost want to see like a spin-off of it that explores her character and why she would do that, right?
Yeah, me too. I know. I wish there was more about her. Why? Like, we don't know anything about her at all. Her age or anything. I know Christina Ricci was like 17 when they filmed it, which is pretty wild. And Vincent Gallo was 36.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is one of the disturbing parts about this movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit more about Vincent Gallo and who he was. What did you find out about that? Or what do you know about that?
Well, I found out that he's an asshole. I'd always heard that. I knew that. Like, I know that he did the whole score except for, I think, the one scene with the dance where she's tap dancing. It's a King Crimson song, but the rest of it is Vincent Gallo. And so he's a musician. He was a painter, like a pretty successful painter in the 80s, like, worked with Jean-Michel Basquiat, and was in a band with him, which is weird. And then he started acting, was like, he was a model. Like, he just always seemed like a narcissist. And the movies, like, clearly he wrote it, directed it, starred in it. Like, he's definitely a narcissist. But he's also always been a conservative, a right-wing conservative. It isn't just like, when you hear about people you loved their work, and then you, like Roseanne or something, and then you find out, oh shit, they've turned into a conservative. It's
Right.
It's not like that. He was always a conservative and like always quite strange in that way, which is weird for an artist. It's like, it almost just doesn't make sense to me that he has this crazy history and is so creative and can create such amazing things, and then can also be a conservative. It's not.
It does make sense to me in a way. Like, it doesn't surprise me that much that he's always been right wing. Yeah, some of the things that I learned about him too are that he was abused by his father as a child, like beaten. And there was this one episode involving chocolate. And in the movie, there's this thing about how his character's allergic to chocolate and the mom tries to give him chocolate. So I imagine it came from that. But he was physically abused by his dad. He was in the mafia for a while. He was
Vincent Gallo was?
Yeah, like as a child, he was like he did the child jobs in the mafia.
Yeah.
And apparently one of the guys there was like, you can do better than this. Like, you should go like have a real job. And then he went off and he was a bike racer, I want to say, for a while. He's done some like crazy, he's had a very wild kind of life.
Yeah.
And this movie was apparently filmed in his childhood home.
Oh, I didn't know that. Because it's his parents are based on his parents.
Yeah. And his parents are funny and very disturbing in the movie, right? We have Angelica Houston, who I did not recognize at first. She's so good.
Either. Yeah.
He was awful to her during and after. Oh yeah, he said some really mean things about her, like, oh, the production company just needed to have their star, and like she wasn't that good, and he was awful about like everyone in the movie. He's just like a really awful person.
Yeah, he sounds like the worst.
Yeah, but she was incredible, and the dad was disturbing.
What was his name?
Ben Gazzara, is that his name? Yeah.
Like,
so in the movie, there is that moment where he's meeting Christina Ricci's character, and he's very sexual with her. And there's a moment where he gets her to sit on his lap, I think it is. That was apparently improvised. Like, poor Christina Ricci, 17. It's just like, oh great, now I'm sitting on this guy's lap. But it
puts his
matched,
face
like,
into her chest.
Yeah, I think there was some really gross stuff like that.
Yeah.
And some of that was improvised, but it fit with the character, right? And then we
Yeah.
find out that Billy's dad killed his dog, which is, I mean, that's red flag psycho behavior, like that. If that's what you're learning about, like the trauma underneath that is so, so extreme. And
Yeah.
in the film, we see the mom doing this incredibly disturbing, like, I'm speaking from my perspective as a therapist to a degree where, people have these different experiences in childhood. And one of the things that can be most confusing is when you have parents who are like sometimes available and sometimes act as if they love you, but then don't show up for you or neglect you in these ways, because it's like, in a way, harder to recognize, or it takes you longer to recognize that that was abuse. And what she does is she has these moments where she's like, "Oh, hi, honey. Like, I got you the chocolate donuts that you like." It's like this performance of thoughtfulness. And he's
Yeah.
like, "I'm deathly allergic to chocolate. Like, you took me to the hospital last time I had chocolate." And she's like, "No, no, I didn't. Like, that didn't happen."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, sure. Tell us how you met." And then she's just obsessively watching this football game. While Layla comes up with this wild story about them being in the CIA and all this, and
Yeah.
she's just not hearing a word of it.
Yeah.
Which again, Layla, so interesting in that moment. How did she sort of pick up on, these parents are not going to hear anything I say. Like, I'm going to play with this a little bit, have a little bit of fun with it. Like, she's so fearless in a certain
Oh,
way,
that's how
right?
you read that, eh? I didn't read it like that at all. I read it like she thought that would be believable.
I didn't.
I
Yeah, I thought she was on purpose coming up with a total yarn just to see what she could get
Oh,
away with.
interesting. Okay. No, I
Yeah.
didn't think that. Yeah.
And again, I mean, you don't know, right? Like, you don't
Yeah.
find out anything about Layla, but I
Yeah.
find her to be quite fearless. Like, I find her to have so many moments where she knows what she wants and she just does what feels right to her. And,
Yeah.
she's somehow likable. I mean, maybe you can put yourself into Layla, and that's part of what is so compelling about her, I guess, in Christina
Yeah.
Ricci's capable hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so I guess it's just, knowing that was that I imagine that portrayal was quite close to Vincent Gallo's real experience. And then
Hmm.
I've seen some interviews with him, and oh my gosh, just awful. Like, narcissist, probably the version of narcissist that was so severely abused as a child that they need that grandiosity to kind of survive that, and they're actually so vulnerable internally that
That's
they
exactly the
need to
character.
say, which is exactly the character, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are moments when you see, like, there's that funny but also sad moment where he's really upset about going into his parents' place, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And he says, "Can you just hold me?" So she tries to put her arm around him, and then he's like, "Don't touch me, what are you doing? Don't touch me." It's
Yeah.
like a lot of people with trauma have that struggle of, like, I want desperately to be held, but also that's far too vulnerable for me and too scary, and I can't allow that to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like from a trauma perspective, it's dead on, right? Like, it's an excellent portrayal of what that can feel like. And I feel like Vincent Gallo also has this interesting, one of the ways that his grandiosity is both an adaptation, but it also probably got him pretty far in his life, right? Like, it
Hmm.
probably pushed him to be able to take these risks and do these things and create these movies. And I mean, I don't know if I even want to talk about what happened in Brown Bunny. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know too much about that, but
Yeah.
there's some unsimulated sexual stuff happening there that was quite controversial.
Yeah. I've never
So
seen it.
he doesn't know me neither. It's just like one of the lore of Vincent Gallo.
Yeah.
As sort of an abuser. And yeah, it's like you can see that you can see the vulnerability in the character, at least. And maybe in Vincent Gallo, like, when he's having these conversations, he's being so grandiose about it. You're like, do you even believe this about yourself? Like, you're saying
Yeah.
some wild things.
Yeah. He seems like a psychopath. But and that's what's so interesting about it too. It's like, separating the art from the artist thing, like there's, I don't know even what to think about that. If that's a possible thing that we can do, we do it all the time. I certainly do. I still listen to Michael Jackson. But it's hard not to see it when you're watching it. Like, you can't not be thinking about the artist that made this thing, right? And
Yeah.
I was definitely in the rewatch thinking, how strange that this came out of that guy.
Yeah. And, you know, another moment I loved was when they're laying on the bed and she's kind of reaching her hand out and he's just at this awkward angle with his arms like straight down by his sides, like stiff as a board.
Yes.
And again, it's 1998 sweet. I don't know that we can see it as sweet today. But in 1998, you know, they kind of have that like there's a wanting to be closeness and he's so weird about touch and so on.
Yes.
Because of that trauma. And then there are these moments that are kind of unforgivable, right? Like, I think the most unforgivable moment in the movie for me was when he's in his saga of trying to go to the bathroom. He finally finds a urinal and there's a guy beside him who makes a comment about how big he is. And then he goes on this homophobic tirade and like beats up the guy, which that was, you know, kind of the moment where like I really could have done without that moment. It was sort of a moment of like, okay,
I know.
that had nothing to do with the plot. That never came back around again.
I think it was reflective of his prison experience, though. That's what I took it as, where I was like, he had just gotten out of prison. I'd imagine he must have had some kind of shit go on in there, and that was part of his vulnerability and the added to his trauma. Like, it was awful. But I was like, okay, he's literally just walked out of prison. Like, I bet some shit happened to him there, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I feel like just adding into the writing, someone commenting on like the size of Vincent Gallo's dick. It's like and I mean, again, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what this narcissist would do, right? It's just make sure you have a line in there where it's like, let's just be going through the rest of the movie assuming that he has like a big
100%. Yeah.
Because
so that
had nothing to do with anything, that part. Yeah, which is a bit funny too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was like watching, I don't know if memoir is even the right word for it. It was like reading someone's diary.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, like it felt so intimate in that way and so flawed in that way too. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really want to know, I don't know if you noticed, but his red shoes. Did you think anything about those red shoes? Because it was such a distinct choice to have him like pretty much all in black, but then have these bright red shoes that they kept, you know, zooming out and you could see his shoes. And I thought, is this like an Oz thing? Like, is this like a journey he's taking? Like, and he's like an anti-Dorothy or something. Like it really, the shoes stuck out to me.
I did notice them in the sense that I thought they were very cool. Like, I really liked his shoes. And I do know that Vincent Gallo also did all the costuming, and he was very specific about what he wanted Christina Ricci to wear. I have since learned that the cult following of this movie, a lot of women who love it would wear that costume for Halloween, or like will dress up as that to this day. Like, something about her costume was really resonant for, I mean, I don't know, maybe everybody who was watching it, but that was him. Like, he went to this thrift store and he like found this outfit and he was very clear about what he wanted her to wear, which we can criticize that it's sexualizing her a fair amount, I suppose. I think you're right that she looks like an angel. And as you mentioned the red shoes, you know, I've just finished writing this book on tarot, and some of the characters have red shoes. I'm trying to remember if the Fool has red shoes. Give me one sec while I look at it. Okay, so I just went on a brief little hyperfocus moment with the red shoes, because there are a lot of red shoes in the tarot. And in this book that I have recently been writing, I was learning about the tarot, or writing about the tarot kind of as the hero's journey, right? It's this classic story structure where there's essentially a fool who steps off a cliff into an adventure, where they learn things and they go into the depths of despair and they return back to their life the same but different. And this is the story structure of many stories and movies, and like Hollywood uses this as a script structure essentially. And so The Wizard of Oz is actually a great example of the hero's journey with Dorothy as the hero. So this came up in my book, and the question was, who's the dead king in the death card? And he has red shoes. I'm pretty sure this is the King of Swords. It's not totally clear, and I don't know that anyone has really written about that specifically, but it is a person with red shoes who has been overcome in the death card. I have seen some things though too about like the Seven of Swords, this little red hat and the red shoes. It's kind of a trickster character. There's an indication that this person with the red shoes is like an entertainer, a juggler, or something like that, which has this trickster quality. And then there are a few other cards that have that as well. So I feel like that kind of makes sense to me. This idea of I have no idea if Vincent Gallo had any, familiarity with the tarot or if that's where it came from, but the red shoes feeling like they're in this fantasy place a little bit, right? Like, certainly the story moving through the hero's journey, but like you said, almost an anti-hero, like an anti-Dorothy going the wrong way. He's like, it's like the story begins from his return, right? Like he's in the depth of his despair in prison, and then the story is all about his return. In the hero's journey, the hero, and there's some criticism of Joseph Campbell around this as well, because it's the hero's journey and not the heroine's journey, and he didn't really include like complex female characters in his ideas about this. And so the hero often meets like a temptress and a goddess, and there's sort of like a divine feminine that he interacts with and claims or learns from or something like that, but she's always kind of a flat character, right? So Christina Ricci is that for him, and I think in so many love stories we do see that female character as the the catalyst, the prize to be won, the reward, the one who, like in this one and so many stories, who's like good enough, lovable enough to like change the hero. I've been watching the latest season of Bridgerton. It's driving me crazy because it's very that, right? It's like this girl who's not like the other girls is like enough to change the ways of this guy who, there's a whole queer part of it that I'm very curious about what they're going to do there. But it's like women kind of being used in a men's story. I do not think Buffalo 66 would pass the Bechdel test, which requires
absolutely not
two named female characters who talk to each other about something other than a man. I do not think that happens here.
No.
Yeah, I think that there's something interesting archetypally, I guess, about this movie.
What did you think about I feel like the only time Christina Ricci, her character, has her own moment is in the bowling alley when she has that dance scene. Like other than that, it's all just really centered around him. And I just really wonder, there's that scene that is kind of like, well, kind of takes you out of the plot, and then also the dad singing.
Right.
Yeah.
And both of those moments felt very Twin Peaksy to me.
Yes. Absolutely.
Which is another sort of dark goth cult obsession that people have, like something about being in this weird fantasy landscape that's also quite dark is satisfying or interesting to people. But yeah, I saw an interpretation of that moment in the bowling alley where, he's bowling because that's his thing, right? It's like the bowling is the place where he can go to feel safe and feel like in community and all those things. And he's being a jerk as usual, and she's bored. And the interpretation that I saw was that she's in her own mind in that moment, right? Like she's escaping to a fantasy where she's doing I saw it as the tap dance she was learning in her dance class where he first meets her.
Right.
So she's kind of in her own place. And like you said, that's the only Moonchild. That's the only music that wasn't created by Vincent Gallo. Like it gives her this inner moment, right? And this person I was watching was talking about it as a really effective expression of dissociation, where she's trying to not be there. I'm not sure I totally agree with that though, to be honest, because I think there can be a difference between fantasy and dissociation. I think they can be the same, but I don't think they always have to be. And the other reason I'm not sure that I agree that it's dissociation is because I think she could escape. Like this, at this point, he's told her to leave many times. He's like, you can go. Like, I don't need you anymore. You've done the thing that I've asked you to do. And I'm good. Like, I'm just gonna bowl. But she wants to be there. Like, she has every right to leave if she wants to. I've seen a lot of people describe this as Stockholm syndrome, but I don't know. For me, it felt like she was kind of expressing herself in that moment, or she kind of felt like bowling isn't my thing, but dancing is, and I'm going to step into this thing that is me and does feel true to me. But I guess when I was watching it in the movie, I kind of thought she was actually dancing. Not in her mind in that way. What did you think about that?
I thought she was actually dancing for sure. I honestly just kind of thought these moments were like it because it's kind of a brutal movie. Like I had kind of forgotten. I was kind of watching it thinking what you would be thinking watching it. Like, why would Mel be saying this is a romance? Because it doesn't turn into a romance for quite a while.
Mm,
But those moments, like the dad singing and her dancing, were kind of to me just like little art breaks.
hmm
Like just take a step back here for a second and like let's look at this beautiful thing. And maybe just like there are beautiful things even in terrible things, so
mm.
like let's just take a little breather here.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was Vincent Gallo's first movie, and I did see some things about how he's doing artsy fartsy. Like he's sort of
Yeah.
adding in these things that aren't necessarily, needed for the plot, but they are these kind of art break moments.
Yeah.
The dad singing, okay, that's Vincent Gallo's voice. Vincent Gallo sang those songs, of course, right?
Oh my God. You're gonna tell me now that it's all CGI and every character was played by Vincent Gallo.
I think we were inside Vincent Gallo's head the whole time. I think that for
Absolutely.
sure. I
Yeah.
think
It
that
makes me feel
reading,
uncomfortable that I wasn't that uncomfortable in there.
right, right. I mean, I don't know that I would have in 1998, right? Like as a young girl, I feel like I would have done what many young girls did at the time, which is just like, I love Layla, like I relate to her, that's, and so on.
Yeah.
I can fix him. Like that's the sort of thing that I don't know. I would have been there at the time. Like I think I have a very different lens now than I
Yeah.
did then. I was listening to a podcast from Every Film Ever, I think the podcast is called. They had a pretty good long discussion about this movie that was
Yeah.
interesting to me.
Yeah.
And they were talking about that scene as another way of expressing the neglect of the family. So the dad never sings. He hates singing, but he'll sing for his girlfriend, but not for him. Like
Right.
that's not something he would share with his son, but he would share it with this stranger who's
Yeah.
hot, right? So he was willing to share it with her in this way. Like it was another way of kind of showing how the love could have been given to him, but it wasn't, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I think I also saw it as like narcissists tend to come from narcissists. Like that happens a
Hmm.
lot of the time, right? And the
Yeah.
dad was awful.
Yeah.
And that was a moment of, him kind of being like, I could have been a star. Like I could have been, here are my records, and just very self-obsessed.
Yeah.
Although how odd when she's like, sing another one. And he's just like, no, being a total jerk about
Yeah.
that as well. Like so
Yeah.
confusing, right? That family was so confusing. And I feel like that was part of the trauma for Vincent Gallo / Billy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they do it again too when they're leaving and they're like, "Bye, honey, we love you," kissing
Right.
her, and then they're like, "See you later" to Vincent Gallo. Like they
Right.
have it in them, but they can't do it with him.
With him, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Which makes, I mean, a quick jump to feeling unlovable for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
Let alone the violence and abuse that was happening in that household that I think was certainly hinted at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were some other parts of this movie that like stuck with you or that you particularly liked or didn't?
Photo booth.
Oh,
It's like it's
yes.
just iconic, right? Like that photo booth scene. I loved that. It honestly watching this movie again made me kind of sick because I was like, I have dated this guy. Like I've dated
Mm,
this guy multiple times, and would if I started dating again, would I date this guy again? I don't think so. But there's just something about that you just can't let go of where you're like, I want like a sad boy that I can fix. It's like it's
mhm,
just deeply rooted in there. But watching her like take abuse from him was difficult, and And even though underneath you can see that like he's like a wounded guy, and I want to make excuses for him,
Right.
but that's sick.
I have this theory that attraction is our wounds trying to heal. That the reason we feel attracted to certain people is because it pokes something in us, and our systems
Absolutely.
so badly want to heal that they tend to go towards that wounds in order to try to replay it and fix it, right? So,
100%.
I'm curious if one way of looking at it could be I am attracted to this dynamic, or I'm attracted to this type of man because that's actually what I want for myself, right? It's like I'm trying to kind of correct the ways in which I've felt misunderstood, wounded,
Yeah.
not good enough, not lovable, whatever it is. And I mean, you did say that before, that you kind of relate to Vincent Gallo in this movie, maybe more than Layla, Christina Ricci's character. Because romance can be a mirror, right? And so it can be both. Like, of course, there can be, I think for many people, it's that wound of like feeling foundationally unlovable. And if I can be good enough, like if I can fix this person, if I can be enough love for them, then I'll prove myself to be lovable, right? And there could be more to it. I don't know if you feel like sharing more about your thoughts about that, but I think that's really interesting, right? To kind of notice this is, the romance that I think of when I think about, a romantic movie that I really liked, and that there's something so familiar about it for you.
Yeah, I feel like when I think about it, I'm not Layla, I'm him because I do crave romance and intimacy a little bit, but I'm so closed off to it because of my traumatic experiences. And so, but the idea of like some gentle person coming along and slowly pulling me out of that is a literal fantasy. Like that sounds incredible. Somebody that will, and obviously because this is like a weird misogynistic movie, but she's like this flat character that will just give him endless grace, and she has so much patience even when he's a nightmare, right? And I'm like, I need a lot of patience. Somebody give me that grace.
Yeah.
I'm not an asshole like him. Like I'm kind of an asshole, but not to this degree.
Right. It's unconditional love, right? And I
Yes.
feel like from the perspective of this character, Layla is the fantasy of what a woman can be from the hero's journey perspective, but also kind of from a mother wound perspective, right? Like having never gotten that love from his mother that was attentive and present and, clean and pure and all of those things.
Yeah.
He wanted to get it from Layla. I think this is a dynamic that we see a lot of the time. I think there are a lot of men who seek mothers in their female partners. I think there can be a mother dynamic from, woman to man heterosexually, and maybe in other kinds of relationships as well. But there was something too in the moment where they finally touch, like they're on the bed and they finally touch, where she holds him like a baby, right? Like there's a moment where she's holding him and he's just kind of got his head on her chest. And, it might be interesting to sort of highlight that they never have sex in this movie, right? Like it's not a particularly sexual movie, though it's highly misogynistic in these ways that we're talking about,
Yeah.
and somewhat exploitative of super young Christina Ricci. And maybe we'll come back to that idea of like, how do you separate out the creator from the creation, right?
Yeah.
But it was in that moment I was kind of thinking of like, actually this larger story of this thread that I've been pulling on this podcast over the last several episodes, which is around masculinity and what's happening with masculinity today. I think this movie is fascinating from that perspective of a wounded masculinity in modern times. Even though this was 1998, I think some of this is still relevant, right?
Yeah.
I think that this is how incels are created, right? It's like men who were abused or feel unloved or feel like they're not good enough or whatever it is, and that they're entitled to female attention, which I'm not sure that's exactly because he tried to push her away so many times, right? So I'm not sure that he feels entitled to, like, he sort of demands and kidnaps her to do this thing, but he's actually not demanding and kidnapping her to have sex with her or to use her in that way. It's more so like, I just need you to make me look good. And we need to look like we span time together. But you know, I think that there's this interesting thing happening around you know, the feminist movement over many generations, raising up women, giving women more of a voice. Like, again, I don't think this movie would be made today or would be made in the same way today, right? We would have a lot more of Layla's story. We would have a lot more of her agency and so on. But there's something about men who feel lost and lonely during a time where some of them might feel left behind. And I want to kind of make sure I'm saying this correctly. So there can be this feeling that though obviously things are not equal in society and we still desperately need feminism in all these kinds of different ways, I feel like there is something about masculinity and patriarchy where it's just like a little... It's like a toddler having a tantrum, you know. It's like patriarchy needs, like desires and desperately wants and needs what we all want, which is love and to be seen and heard as whole human beings. And I think that there is a lack of, you know, initiation is one way of thinking about it, a lack of positive role models for men, a lack of information for men, even about what it means to be a good man today.
They don't have the language.
Yeah, and maybe that's partly why I'm struggling to find the words for it. It's like there's something missing on that side, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, in this movie, it feels like that's an energy that still feels very present. That sort of cruel, vulnerable, angry, needy masculinity, like that still feels relevant to me, I guess, in a way that's become even more dangerous than it was in 1998, because now we have incels and things like that. Like, that's kind of the direction that's gone, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. He doesn't know how to express what he needs at all. It's like we can see it,
right?
But she can see it, but he absolutely cannot. Like, he's just so closed and tight, right?
Yeah. And so to go back to that photo booth scene, she was doing as she was told, but again, in a way that I really liked, because she was being playful, she was having fun with it, and she was sort of arguing with him in this way where she's like, I'm trying to, like, we're in a photo booth. Like, do you know what a photo booth is for?
Yeah, like, we're supposed to like each other.
He's just staring at the screen like he's getting his mugshot taken, right?
Yes.
And if you look at just that clip, right, that you've shared and sent me on Instagram and stuff of just the photo booth scene, there's so much going on there. Like, in the dynamic between the characters, you can see her bringing this lightness and this joy and sort of trying to jostle him into all of those things that he wants, right? And he is refusing. He is flat refusing to receive that in any type of way. And then there's this other layer where he looks terrifying. You know, if you look at him, like, he looks like a psychopath, which maybe he is. And, you know, I think the way that this movie, if this were to happen in real life, if this was not a fantasy, it would be ending a lot worse than this, right? Like, there's violence in his eyes. And so I think there's something quite scary about that as well. But I feel like it kind of holds so many of the truths about the story and also the movie and its creator, like, in this moment of her just doing her best, doing her thing, like being a person, in this way that I do see this fearlessness in Layla that I really like. She's not terrified. She's having fun, like, you know, or she's trying to. And he's just resisting, right?
Yeah, she's also, like, doing, like, which is pretty classic for women to be doing most of the work, you know, relationship wise, right? Like, even with his parents, she's the one, you know, talking to them and making that a semi-pleasant experience. And then, any kind of humanity is brought through her.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not enough. You know, I think that's not enough maybe it was enough in 1998. But
Yeah,
I think that there is this interesting trend that I have been noticing, which is women who are not interested in even trying to date, right? And maybe you fit yourself in that category. Like,
I do.
why would I bother? Like,
Hmm.
why would I make my life worse
Yeah. Well,
with
it's
someone
like
who,
watching this was like reminding me of that, like how much work you have to do. Like it's exhausting, right? And like I want that energy for me.
yeah,
I don't have it anymore to give to somebody else and teach them how to be a human. Like
yeah.
you have to smile in a photo. Like, I no, thank you.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? And
Hmm.
I think one of these pieces about this systemic issue with masculinity today is the statistics of single women who are healthier, happier, have more money, all of these things, and that married women do worse. Married women with children do the worst, right? In terms of all of those factors. And I think a lot of women are just like, no thanks. Like, why
Yeah,
would I do that?
yeah.
There's no reason for me to need a man anymore. And I think that's part of the crisis for men, right? Is like, okay, nobody needs you for your money anymore. So
Hmm.
what are you bringing to the table? And so,
Yep.
my optimistic way of looking at that is I think that this is changing. I want this to change. I'm certainly going to raise my boys to be bringing something more to the table so that it's not like this, so that women don't have to show up like an angelic fantasy
Hmm.
Layla, who has absolutely no human characteristics, but just only unconditionally loves this incredibly flawed man who is not doing enough, right? Like, this is not someone anyone should date.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think that's just kind of part of it, and what's so interesting about it. And so,
Absolutely.
I think that there are ways in which we can look at this story of Billy learning some things about himself. You know, would he do that without Layla just kind of hanging around, loving him unconditionally the whole time? Like, I don't know. It seems to give him a little bit of hope or something. But there are these moments where, like, you see all the ways that he's really awful, and then he tries to correct for some of those. He has this strange friendship with this guy he calls
Goon.
Goon, right? And the poor guy is like, I don't like that name. Like, can you please not call me Goon anymore? My name is like Patrick or whatever he's saying.
Rocky.
His name is Rocky. Right? It's not bad. He's like, yeah. Anyway, there is a moment where he thinks he's gonna die, right? Like, his plan. We haven't even talked about this, but his intention this whole time is just to go and do a murder suicide.
Hmm.
Which, like, I shouldn't be laughing because it's just so dark. But this is his plan, to do a murder suicide. And he
Yeah.
hasn't told this to Layla. She intuits something, right? Like, she knows something's up. But he thinks he's going to die, so he calls this friend and he tries to tell him, like, listen, you're actually my friend. Like, I'm going to try to call you Rocky. Like, you're actually the only person in my life, and I'm leaving all my most valued belongings, which are like my bowling shoes, to you, Rocky. And then after he ends up surviving, he, like, he's being just as abusive as always. But I
Yeah.
feel like it is these moments of trying to figure out what it means to take accountability, like this idea that he lost this bet, so he lost all of his money, and then he got in trouble for it to the point where he had to go to jail. And he is so resentful against the world about that, right? Like,
Hmm.
everyone's against him, everything is against him. There's no reason to live in a world like that. I feel like that is the incel perspective, right? And maybe specifically the perspective of some of these men who have committed gun violence, against women and things like that, because they feel like the world owes them something.
Hmm.
And it's interesting, I think, the way this movie ends, because the whole time, especially as this stuff was happening, and she was saying, like, don't come back. Like, you can leave, but you got to come back. Like, I have a feeling you're going to do something you shouldn't do. And Goon/Rocky is like, don't do something stupid. Like, all of these things. And so I was thinking, never having seen this movie, like, is she going to save him? Like, is that what's going to happen? And
Hmm.
she does, right? Like, he has this moment. And I mean, there's not a lot of exposition in this movie. I think a lot of it you can read into it whatever you want. But, like, he goes to
Hmm.
this club, he finds the guy he's going to try to murder. He sees him in this position. He offers him a drink, I think, and maybe he's humanized for him in a moment, right, where he's like, this is ridiculous. This is just a dude. like me, you know, with flaws or whatever it is. Or maybe he's thinking, oh, well, if I don't do this, I can have Layla. Or, I mean, it's unclear, like, exactly why he decides not to do the violence, do the murder suicide. but he doesn't.
Though they make it look like he does, which was
Well, yeah,
interesting.
it's like in his fantasy, I guess. Like
In
he
his
thinks he
fantasy,
goes
but
through
while
it
you're
in his
watching it,
mind.
you're thinking, "Oh fuck, he did
Right,
it. He killed him, and then he kills
right.
himself." And that was when I was like, "Why did I spend all my time watching this fucking movie?" When like I was hoping that it wasn't going to be this arty film where, of course, that you're going to be so depressed at the end. And so I was
Right,
so pleasantly surprised when it turned out to be a fantasy and
right,
he didn't kill him. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and then, you know, it's this quite sweet, like he goes to the donut shop and he gets her a cookie and a hot chocolate, which she's like, it's like kind of a childlike thing that she likes the hot. I don't know. There's something weird about the hot chocolate, but anyway, he gets her the thing she's been asking for, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, maybe that's a little bit of a metaphor for like, you know, he's now stepping up to listen to her and meet her needs, you know, and so
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that's how it ends. Like they don't have sex, but they, you know, you see like an image of them kind of cuddling or something, and you're
Hmm.
like, oh, it's a happy ending. That is a bit of a surprise, and like she did save him. And I was thinking
Shocking.
about I think it's season 4 of White Lotus. Did you watch the most recent
Hmm.
White Lotus?
Yeah.
Amy Lou Wood and Walton Goggins have a similar dynamic, right? He's this kind of cranky older guy. He's quite mean to her all the time,
Hmm.
and she just loves him unconditionally. And no matter what
Hmm.
he does, she keeps showing up and loving him again and again. And spoiler, if you haven't seen this season, skip ahead of 30 seconds or whatever, but in this show she doesn't save him, and I thought that was so interesting when I was watching that, because he plans to do a murder suicide. She has that same intuition. It was almost like this was based on this story from Buffalo 66, I
Huh.
thought, because it was so familiar in so many
Yeah.
ways. You know,
Yep.
he's trying to do this murder suicide. He backs out. He decides not to, and he's trying to get himself some help. But then the damage he's done is already too much. And not only does he get killed, but so does she, right?
Hmm.
And so, you know, I think it might be the end of their story. I can't remember if it's the end of the whole season, but you see them, you
Yep.
know, face down in the water like they're dead, right? They did not survive this. And I feel like that was so interesting to watch, because the reality of these kinds of romances that we see is that if it starts with abuse, it ends with abuse or worse, right? That a lot
Hmm.
of the time, this is how women, usually women, end up getting killed by their partners, is because this is the dynamic, right? Of him abusing her, requiring this unconditional love from her. And then the moment she shows any humanity, you know, he abuses her further.
Hmm.
And that the truth is we can't save these men, right? Like, I feel like that's what we need to know and learn, is that that's not what we're here to do. You know, that's not what we're
Hmm.
for. And again, the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, I mean, so much understanding of storytelling and myth and pop culture. You know, we can get this message that what women are for is to be the temptress or the witch or the goddess or the helper or whatever it is, but not a human being in her own right, right? A
Hmm.
heroine. Obviously, that's changing, you know, especially in the post-Me Too era, where so many more female writers and directors are coming forward and creating movies. Like, I think we're seeing different stories. But I
Yeah,
did think it was
absolutely.
really fascinating to have that comparison between Buffalo 66 and that end of White
Yeah.
Lotus,
Yeah.
of just like, wow, that's actually how it ends a lot of the time.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, I hated that she died too. It was like you spent all your time and energy with this fool and it takes you down anyway. That's I think the fantasy of Buffalo 66 is it ends in the high note. You know,
Yeah,
the whole ending, I was I was sure he was going to get when he's crossing traffic. I thought, oh fuck, he's going to get hit by a car now. Like
right.
something's going to happen here that's
Me
not going
too.
to
I
make
thought,
this a
yeah.
happy ending. Yeah.
He'll
And
trip and
so
fall on some chocolate and die.
something, yes, oh my God, something. Somebody will break into the hotel and kill her. Like, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
so I was just like waiting, like, oh my God, when are the credits going to roll? Because I just want to make sure that we're ending on this good moment.
I
And
felt
like,
that same way, like, and I mean, maybe you could read it as he did do the murder suicide and this was his afterlife fantasy, you
mm,
know?
mm,
Because the truth is, if that had really happened, they would have had maybe like a happy moment or two, and then she would have been abused and maybe killed in the end
Yes.
anyway, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
one moment doesn't change all of that trauma. Like,
No.
the sad thing is that, as much as that's a fantasy, that if someone loves you enough, it'll heal you. That's not the case, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it just doesn't work like that. It can help. Love obviously can help. Like that's real, having people that love you and care about you,
Yeah.
really matters. But, it's not enough. It just isn't. And that's not because people aren't enough. It's because that's just not how that works, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Worked in this movie though. You can
Yeah.
just live in the fantasy that she's fine and he's
Yeah.
fine now too.
Yeah, that he turned his whole life around.
Turned his
Like,
whole life
yeah.
around in a second, just in a second,
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
heart-shaped cookie.
Right.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep thinking about the hot chocolate now. I feel like I'm going to go off on a hyper focus about that because he's allergic to chocolate. And now I didn't put that
Right.
together before,
Oh,
but
yeah.
now
Yeah.
it's like the one thing she wants is something that he can't survive. I feel like there's maybe, I don't know if that's something he thought about or if it's just a random detail, but like, why was it hot chocolate? Why was it
Yeah.
not, something else? Because that's specifically what he's allergic to.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
there's just so much, right?
Yeah.
You could just go into it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because I liked and didn't like this movie. I mean, it made me uncomfortable for sure.
Yeah.
I don't super want to rewatch it. But there are things I did really like about it, things I really appreciated, especially from that trauma perspective. And then there is that discomfort of like, do I watch something when I know the creator is this horrible person?
Yeah.
And also like, I don't know, that's a thing all the time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and also, I mean, I often tell my 5-year-old, like, there's no such thing as monsters, right? There's no such thing as people who are all good or all bad. Like, everybody has good and bad. Everybody has flaws, and so I don't know exactly where to land on that, the sort of ethics of watching a movie like this. It was really interesting. I think it brought forward a lot to think about. And as as we've been talking about it, noticing because certain things aren't explained, you're also able to put your own projections into it because there's a lot that is unsaid. So you saw certain things that I saw differently or whatever it is without even thinking twice about it. So, it gives some space for the viewer to put their own dark, fantasies or selves or whatever it is into those characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
So justice for Layla, justice for Christina Ricci, who went on to have a fantastic career. Vincent Gallo, he's still working, I think, but
He
he's
just,
not.
I was reading about him and he just started working again in like 2021 or something, but
Oh,
he's a
okay,
Trump
yeah.
supporter now and like it's just, yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
Christina
wild.
Ricci's still working. I think she's making a ton of money. I think she's
Yeah,
doing
she
great.
said she
So
never talked to him ever again.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. I fully respect her choice.
No shit. No
Yeah,
shit. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay,
I still love it. I'm gonna say that I do love
okay,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, I at the end
yeah,
I was I love the idea that it is a fantasy, it's a fairy tale. Like it's like this is not possible, this is sick, this is ridiculous and says so much about me, but the ending that you can just pretend that that is real
yeah.
I was just like, ugh, I just love it. I love it.
Yeah, well, Heated Rivalry, which is also a romance, Marcel and I were talking about that idea of fantasy and binge watching and rewatching as a way to self-soothe and like a way to be inside a fantasy. Maybe the way Layla is when she's tap dancing in her head in the bowling alley, right? It's like you can go escape to a place that feels safe and perfect and all of these things.
Yeah.
And that Heated Rivalry has been spoken about as a corrective experience, partly because we've seen so much violence against queer people in movies and TV shows.
Yes.
And this one has a happy ending. And so there's something about that that's so relieving, right?
Yes.
And so maybe this movie has kind of that similar feeling of like, we know in reality, and again, this is 2026 lens, not 1998 lens, but we know that this isn't how love works. This isn't how humans can behave and and get away with it and all of those things. And you know, I feel like I don't love this movie as a romance, but I do love it as kind of the memoir trauma recovery perspective more so. I
Yes.
love it as a fantasy of trauma recovery. Like from that perspective, I think it's really quite interesting,
Yes.
and sad as well because it's so unrealistic. But that, yeah, that you can see this pain and these flaws and this character making all of these mistakes, and then having a happy ending that feels totally impossible. But yeah, to be able to sit with that and think like maybe the darkest parts of me could have a happy ending. Maybe it could be that easy for those darkest
Yeah.
parts of me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do want to be
Yeah.
clear that I'm not looking for a relationship like this. This is not my fantasy of what a
Kidnappers,
relationship
stay
should
away
look
from Mel,
like.
okay?
Yes. Stay away from me and my house in
Keep the
Toronto.
violent kidnappers away from Mel. Nice
Yes.
guys, maybe. Maybe you have a chance. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. If you get me a hot chocolate.
Get her a hot chocolate and a heart
Yeah,
shaped cookie and see how it goes. Yeah.
100%. That's all it takes.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mel, for
Thank you,
bringing this
Julie.
movie to me. And I haven't watched it yet because it's been a long time, but maybe we'll watch Punch Drunk Love, which is your other favorite,
Incredible.
and see what kind of what
Sick
comes out of
romance is in
what
there.
sort of sick romance is in there exactly. and
Yeah.
and others. Happy to do some dark lore on here. It's so great to have you as
Thank you,
always.
Julie.
That was my conversation with the wonderful Mel Zee, who you can find at Sorry I Brought It Up on Instagram and TikTok. And you can also check out her Patreon at patreon.com/cult of weirdos. Lots of interesting dark lore stuff. Definitely follow her there and see what's going on with her and what she has to offer. So next up should be Night Bitch and If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. We're going to talk about those two movies in the same episode, so check those out. I have plans for Love is Blind, the current season. I also am hoping to catch up on some of the Oscar contenders, including Frankenstein and Hedda. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how much I can I can watch with everything else going on these days. And so if you want to follow along, if you want to join these conversations with us, watch those movies and TV shows. And I can't wait to hear what you think about all this. Thanks so much and see you next time.